Has an animal ever alerted you to an unknown presence in your surroundings? Could you fall asleep with countless spirits shouting your name? Could the lack of a reoccurring ghost sighting become a deadly omen? Today, we test the believability of the glowing pond and shrieking room.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. It's Tuesday. This is the first time that Charlie and I have recorded in probably about a month, right? 3 weeks, a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we were just on our mini vacations.
Wow.
You went to Scotland.
I did.
I went to North Carolina.
Yeah.
Little difference in trip distance.
I wouldn't say I was little. It was a pretty big vacation.
I mean, little difference in going from North Carolina to Scotland.
Quite a bit of difference. It was unimaginable.
Yeah, I'm happy for you. I know you had a really good time. You got to see the Kelpies.
The Kelpies were awesome.
The realest Kelpies that exist.
Yep.
We'll leave it at that. But we're excited to be back, excited to be recording, and it's listener submission time. I got 2 submissions, which has kind of been our thing lately. Also, it's not only is it good because it makes the episodes a little bit longer, but it also helps us get through our submissions a little bit more.
Through that stockpile?
Because I think we're in March of 2022.
Jeez.
That is the folder that I pulled these from, or March or April, like one of those two. So we're still spring of 2022. Now, that's not to discourage you from submitting your experience. You absolutely should, because it's just, you got to get it in now so you can get to it later.
Exactly. But so if you've been thinking about it, you've been listening, you're like, I should write them a message.
Now is the time.
Do it now.
Yes.
Now.
And how do you do that? You go to believingthebizarre.com, go to submit your experience. There's a form. Do not be intimidated by the form field size. Please, as much detail as possible. The more details, the more likely your episode is to be a full, main episode.
I'd say pre-write it. Pre-write it
Write
in
it in
another format.
Word doc.
Word.
Text.
What's that?
Notes.
Notebook. Yeah, notes on Mac.
Yep.
And then after you've written it, put it in the box.
Command A, Command C, Command V.
It's Command A.
Command A's all. Grab all your text.
Oh, okay. I see.
Command A, Command C, Command V. Fast. But anyways, we got 2 stories. I'm excited to get into it. Charlie, are you ready to get into it?
Yes, please.
So our first story comes to us from Sam in Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I've been in Gainesville.
I don't think I have. It took place in 2005. And at this point in time, in 2005, our narrator, Sam, is about 14 or 15 years old. But now still, but even at this time, at the time that this took place, they consider themselves a skeptic.
Okay.
And they enjoy the paranormal as a hobby.
There's a pizza place in Gainesville. I don't know if it's still there, but when I was there, there's this place called Da Vinci's, which had the thickest thick crust
Ooh.
I've ever had. It was good.
They had the code for the crust.
It was like, this is a casserole.
Yeah.
But you hold it. It was really good.
I think one of the greatest things about pizza that's been invented in the last 40, I don't know when it was invented.
45 years ago, 46 years ago.
Stuffed crust.
Oh.
Like the minute.
That was in the 90s.
30 years, which is still within 40. But I feel like the moment somebody was like, you know what, a lot of people eat until the crust and then they just are done with the crust, unless it's like a really good piece of pizza. Why not just shove some cheese in there? It looked like you're like.
I like stuffed crust a lot.
I do too. But anyways, I understand it. So they're a skeptic. They are paranormal is kind of like a hobby. And this one encounter that we're going to be talking about today is the only time that they've really encountered anything a little bit unusual.
When you're a skeptic, how is the paranormal hobby for you?
I'm a skeptic.
I know, exactly. So what does that mean as a hobby?
I think it's something you can truly enjoy without just blatantly believing it.
It's a little shady over here.
I can be entertained by a story and think it's fascinating and not believe it to be true.
Okay.
Like one of my favorite genres of horror movies are zombies. And while we covered it, and there's like parasites and things like that, the idea of like people coming out of the grave and being hungry for human flesh, like not really real. But that doesn't mean I can't really enjoy it and it can't be one of my favorite things to consume.
Okay.
I think it's just something you find interesting even if you don't inherently believe it to be true.
Okay. I was just trying to wrap my head around that. Like, what does that mean? Because I think I'm more of a believer.
You are. But that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Yeah.
We need you to be a believer. Because our audience is split of skeptics and believers.
It's true.
You know what I mean? So I feel like we both have a middle ground on certain things. Because I love that you're a believer, but you don't believe in Bigfoot.
It's just, I don't know. It's just one of those weird things.
Okay, so with all that said, let's get into it. So around this time, 2005, Sam spent a lot of time at their friend's house, Sophia.
Okay.
So it's anonymous.
Gotcha.
So yes, this is, their name is not Sophia. I can tell you off the air if you'd like, Charlie, but
Okay.
it's not Sophia.
I do want to know off there because I like
That's
knowing.
the benefit of being in the room.
Yeah.
That's like that Hamilton song, right? In the room where it happened.
Bro, I don't know Hamilton at all.
Anyways, so Sam spent pretty much every weekend at Sophia's house, hanging out at their house, their yard, their neighborhood, just chilling. And in this story, that is what they were doing. Sam was hanging out with Sophia in her neighborhood, walking around, chilling with two of their other friends, Dan and Libby.
Not anonymous.
They couldn't remember their names, and they said you can.
That's fair.
I don't know why I picked Dan and Libby.
She just picked Sophia and Sophia and Sophia.
Sophia 1, Sophia 2. No, I don't know why. Those are people who went to theater with.
It is, yeah.
That's very strange. But anyways, they're young teens. They can't drive anywhere, so they're just walking around neighborhoods at night. Sam admits that a lot of this walking would involve trespassing, creeping around through other people's yards. I think mostly because they're teens. I get it, right? It's kind of like, it made me think of when I was reading at the walking game that I talked about during the Skinwalker experience, where it's just, like, it's late. I mean, I was 22 and they're like 14, so it's a little different. I think they have a little bit more leeway than I have, but I get it. Even though like you don't want to think about people trespassing, but they're kids, it's kind of.
Although, if the police catch you out and you're 22 and you're just walking, you're not in trouble.
That's true. I have no curfew. Honestly, I'd probably be worried about alligators, right? They're in Gainesville.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Or crocodiles. I don't know. I don't want to be whatever one.
Reptiles. I was going to say reptilians.
Big turtles. Maybe reptilians. I don't know. So on this particular night, Sam, Sophia, Dan, and Libby were passing through a neighbor's yard to get to a retention pond, which is essentially a pond designed to hold and distribute rain runoff to prevent flooding. I learned when I was in Miami that you can't wash your cars there because the soap can't, they don't want the soap getting in through the draining system with, how they handle water.
Well, how do they wash their cars then?
You just don't. I think you have to,
go to a place?
Or maybe you have to collect the water. You have to, I don't know. Car, I don't know. I don't live there. So maybe someone will hit us up and they'll be like, either that's not true or they'll say it is true and here's what happens. And I look forward to seeing that. But anyway, so they're going to this retention pond, and to get to the retention pond, there's this little crack in this gate that they had to creep through that was hidden by a couple of bushes. Sam went first because their friends were too scared. And I'm assuming, since nothing paranormal's happened yet, that they mean scared of getting caught.
Probably.
I don't think they're thinking...
Or of alligators.
Or of alligators, yes. I don't think they're thinking anything spooky yet. I know you guys are because you know the context of what we're doing right now. So the way that this retention pond is set up is it's in between a row of houses.
Okay.
And it's in all the houses' backyards.
Oh, okay.
So it's like houses looking one way, houses looking the other way, and then in between these houses is this pond. So they are in residential areas. They are in people's backyards. So I think that was the fear. But they're young. They're dumb. They still did it. So they crawled through there, and they're like, I don't know why. Is it just giving you 80s vibes a little bit? It's like they're on. I imagine they rode their bicycles there, and they're like, oh, park them, throw them in the bush, and
yeah, it does feel like it's like that old kind of slasher movie.
Yeah, I wasn't in the 80s, so I don't know. So I'm just going off of what I've seen. But they're wandering around the darkness. They're taking it in. They're relishing in the sneakiness. And although there was one neighbor that had a dog chained up to a tree, and he was just barking nonstop at them, that would freak me out. Just because somebody's gonna come check on the dog. What is it seeing out there? Yeah. If it's 2 minutes, maybe it's a squirrel or something. But for a long period of time, you'd feel like somebody would check on that dog.
My dog freaks out. I'm like, get in the house. I'm so embarrassed.
Come on, people trying to sleep. My neighbors don't care. They will let the dogs bark all night long. They're like,
I feel terrible.
Good.
It's the song of my people.
Yeah. So they're wandering around, having a good time. But all of a sudden, Sophia starts feeling really, really faint out of the blue, which is not like her. This is not a type of spell that is normal for her happening. But, it's happening. She's feeling woozy. So she told the others that she's going to go sit down and relax in the grass near the edge of the pond. So they were concerned. But again, they're 14. So they're probably like, okay. Yeah. Whatever. So a few moments pass after Sophia goes and sits down. And Sam distinctly remembers thinking that it gets really, really quiet, uncomfortably quiet. All of the warm outside noises ceased, There were no more crickets. There were no more sounds of cars passing in the distance. There was nothing. Complete silence. But then they remembered probably why it was so incredibly quiet. It was the dog stopped barking. But it was still out there with them. So Sam looked and, there it was tied to the tree. But it wasn't barking anymore. Instead, it was standing still as stone. And it had this blank, seemingly far off staring look on its face. It wasn't looking at Sam or any of their friends. Then Sam shook their head, being pulled away from like a trance, and remembered, other than this dog, that, they were creeping around, having fun in the dark. And their first thought was to turn their attention back to Sophia, see how she was doing. And here's a quote from Sam. Quote, "When I looked back towards Sophia, the pond water caught my eye first because, I swear to God, it looked like it was glowing. It wasn't a glowing spot in the pond. It was just all of the water. It had a bluish tint to it as well and looked foggy, so you couldn't really see anything in there despite the sudden light. I didn't say anything about it immediately, and when I went around the pond to get back to Sophia, she suddenly cried out and started panicking. She was looking towards the water in front of her. Then, I heard a low, pulsing sound, almost like a heart pounding, but it was in the air. The dog was still not responding to any of the commotion, still in the same exact position. That was the thing that really sent chills down my spine back then. Animals are, of course, known to be perceptive to strange happenings, or at least that's what generally is said. Sophia and the others ran out as quickly as possible, and I followed a little slower because I was curious and kept looking behind me, but I didn't ever see anything. The water's glow seemed like it faded away the further that I got from it." Unquote. Pretty strange, right?
It's weird. It's a little anticlimactic, but it was weird.
The glowing water.
I was expecting to see like a big spaceship in the sky or something.
You want me to let them know that it's just not up to par? See if they can revise it?
No.
We really liked the build-up. No, I'm messing. I know.
You know what I mean? I thought it was going to be some giant thing or some alien or something.
Well, yeah, it's not done. We're not done.
Okay. All right, good. Thank goodness.
So naturally, they're freaked out and they all run out of there.
Sam's doing a slow jog out of there because they're curious.
I'm like, looking behind me. And then we kind of did that in the cemetery where it's like I think it was Ethan that had the cane.
Because I was doing a power walk out of there, not running.
You got to keep one foot at all. Well, I always say that, and I always remind myself, you always have a foot on. You're not floating. Anyway, so they regroup in the road after they crawl through the gate. They take a moment to catch their breath, their adrenaline running crazy. And once they took a few moments to calm down, they asked Sophia what happened. Like, why did she start panicking? Apparently, Sophia claimed that she saw something inside the water. Some type of form of something, some entity. And it was rising up out of the water towards her. This sent chills down Sam's spine. Sam asked Sophia about the glow, and apparently Sophia had witnessed it too.
Ooh.
Although her main focus was on what was emerging from the water. Libby mentioned the pulsing sound even before Sam did. So in their mind, this absolutely confirmed that low pulsing sound was real.
Okay.
Someone else said it before they said it. So that confirmed it for them. So something truly strange happened in the water, and the dog's behavior too. You can't overlook the dog's behavior.
That's true.
Very, very, very strange. So they really had no clue what was happening, and they decided to never go back. Ever again.
Fair choice.
So I don't know about you. There's a book that this reminds me of, and but I'll save it for the discussion.
I've got a couple theories about this one.
Is it Faye?
No.
Okay.
No.
Are you sure?
Well, kind of maybe.
You got time to think about it. You got time to. You can revise that too.
Okay. Good.
All right. So that is Sam's story, and I think I sometimes when we have a shorter submission before the main episode, we talk about it.
Yeah.
I kind of want to save this for the discussion.
Yeah, let's let that simmer on the back part of the stove. Hope it doesn't burn.
Yeah, put real low.
Yeah.
Real low. And let's move on to story number 2. Story number 2. Our second submission comes to us from Rob, and this takes place over 35 years or so.
Oh, okay.
In Central Ohio.
Okay, like Columbus-ish?
You know, it doesn't mention Columbus. It's probably a bunch of suburbs of Central Ohio.
Or even like rural.
Rural.
Ohio.
Corntownville.
Yeah.
Corntown.
Oh, you know what I've never been to in Ohio I want to go to?
There's
like these stone statues of corn in Columbus, I think.
Jeez.
I want to go there.
Just take a picture with your corn. I feel like you're not allowed to smile in that photo. Like, it's like, yep, it's me and corn.
I think it's OSU that has that.
There's just...
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No. It's like they just throw a bunch of rocks in a field. They're like, it's cut off the cob. Take my word for it.
No, they're pretty neat. I don't know. I want to go see them.
Okay. Hey, you do you, man.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed.
One day I will.
Yeah. The reason this takes place over such a period of time is because it involves Rob's family too. So it goes back to the 80s. Rob's a big fan of the podcast, so shout out Rob. We appreciate you.
Awesome.
He's in school. He's very busy. He mentioned not to say his last name. He doesn't want his other classmates.
Say my last name.
Please. They will make fun of me.
Well, they're not going to listen to the podcast.
That's what I literally wrote that. I'm like, they're not listening, Rob, but I appreciate you, but they're not listening. And I wish I could say his last name because it's a celebrity's name, like how my name's Tyler Perry.
Oh, okay. I see.
But that's okay. It doesn't. I'll tell you that off the air too.
Okay, good.
But it's cool. And I'm not going to say what he's in school for either, just because I feel like if I'm going to...
It must be college then.
Yeah, it's intensive.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We respect privacy here.
That's right.
Unless you're a main episode, then we might eviscerate you. Like that lady from Zeta Talk.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
Yeah. But anyway, on to Rob. So Rob's family is unique in that they've had plenty of strange and paranormal stories over the years. Some of the experiences are Rob's family's, which I said that's why it goes back to like the 80s. I have a feeling Rob is like mid to late 20s, but I could be wrong. That's just my guess. Or at least he was when he submitted this. Maybe he's like 40 now. Of course, Rob has his own personal experiences too. Out of all the family members, Rob acknowledges that him and his brother seem to be the most sensitive to the paranormal.
Okay.
And they have the ability to feel when ghosts or spirits are around and able to see them when the entities choose to reveal themselves. He believes that when you're able to see or feel a spirit, it makes them more sensitive to you too.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's unique, and although I couldn't claim it to be true, I definitely don't knock the opinion.
It's like if you look into the void looks back.
Yeah, he thinks that that's why sensitive people overwhelmingly seem to have more experiences than people that don't. Although my counter would be that maybe the paranormal is all around us, and it's not a matter of abundance. It's just that it's not the entities seek you out, but just some people can't see them there.
It's just, like...
I do believe in the law of attraction, though, so I think there's definitely merit to what he's saying.
I do, too. I really do, too. That makes a lot of sense.
It's like that spooky moment in, like, a movie or a book where the moment it's like being in the presence of something is scary, but once it knows you know, it just even gets even creepier.
Yeah, it's like if it sees you staring, Like, I know that idea. If, like, you see something, you're staring at something, and it sees you, and then you're screwed.
Yeah.
I can't think of an example of that right now, of course.
It's like... when Harry's in trouble and Hermione, or maybe it's not Harry, someone's in trouble and Hermione starts doing the howling. And then Lupus.
That is Harry.
I want Harry. Harry and Hermione are.
What are you saying?
How do you say?
Hermione.
How do you say?
Hermione.
What?
Hermione.
Hermione. Come on. You got to put the.
Hermione.
What do you say, Harry?
Yeah.
It's Harry.
It's Harry Potter.
It's Harry Potter.
Harry. Frogs and crumpets. It's Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Hermione and Harry Potter.
I'm just saying that he's about to destroy Harry, and then they're howling, and now he knows, and it's that sinking feeling where it's like, I know that you know.
Yes. I saw a stupid TikTok about that. It's like, Hermione's a werewolf. I'm like, if she's a werewolf, why wouldn't she transform them too in that same moment?
I don't know. She just looked back in time.
Yeah.
With that flick of that wrist. Anyway, this has nothing to do with Rob. No. Let's go to his first experience. So this takes place he kind of labels them based on locations and who owns them.
Good. Okay.
So the first one is the Pickerington house. So I'm assuming this is part of Pickerington, Ohio.
Okay.
He lived in a duplex. It was built in the early 1900s. He joked, he's like, I know you guys love or hate hearing about layouts.
Yes.
He's like, I'm going to give it to you, though. Okay. I'm going to give you that layout.
All right.
Let's do this. The living room was right in front of the door, and there was a hallway at the end of that led straight into a bathroom, or you could turn left. You have options in this house. The hallway doubles as a kitchen, and at the end of the right was Bob's older brother's bedroom before he moved out. I know I've lost you unless you're maybe an architect, but straight ahead was a small room with some stairs that led to a back door, but there was also an entrance to the basement in it. And to the right, there were steps that go upstairs, which had 2 bedrooms.
In this Willy Wonka house, I don't understand anything.
Rob's room was one of the ones at the tops of the stairs.
Okay.
And then there were 3 additional steps that turned into his parents' room.
Wait, what?
Listen, it's a house.
You have to go through Rob's house
It's
to
a
get
house.
to his parents' room?
I
think I get it. It's like a landing and then 3 more steps. Parents.
I want our listener friend Yaz to just build this on The Sims, and we can just tour through it.
That'd be cool.
So even before Rob was born, his parents acknowledged that there were strange occurrences there. Rob's father lived there with his ex-wife a long time ago in a house far, far away in Cornville, Ohio. And she never had a chance to meet Rob's father, as Rob's father was raised by his grandparents. And when Rob's older sister was born, his ex-wife, Rob's father's ex-wife, told him that she woke up to see a man floating through the closed window into the bedroom, looked inside the crib where Rob's sister was peacefully sleeping, smiled, and then completely vanished. Naturally, she was freaking out, and she woke up Rob's father. And when she explained what this spirit looked like, Rob's father immediately knew that it was his dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he even searched for an old photograph, which his ex-wife was able to immediately identify as the spirit that she saw.
That's creepy.
So from Rob's perspective, before he was born, Rob's deceased grandfather came into his sister's room when she was a baby and looked at her and smiled.
Okay.
And then left.
Yeah. That's weird, but it's sweet.
In a way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This one's not so sweet. Years later in that same house, Rob's brother used to make their mother sit in his room until he fell asleep because he claimed he would hear people screaming at him all night from inside his bedroom. Sometimes they would shout his name. Sometimes it was mindless shrieking. But needless to say, absolutely terrified him.
I hate that. Oh, I don't like that at all.
No, it's creepy. And here's a quote from Rob. Quote, "My own experiences in that house include hearing people walk up the old creaky stairs with nobody being there, seeing figures walk around and block out lights and images of what was behind them, and hearing my name called from rooms that nobody was in. There was also a weird grate in the floor of my dad's room that led to the living room. It was just a hole with a metal grating that none of us were quite sure what it was for, but you could clearly hear into the other room. We used to drop things on each other from there just to mess with each other, but sometimes you could hear whispers coming from the room you weren't in, as well as sometimes see what I can really only describe as fingers poking through."
Oh.
The last thing I can think of from that time frame is that my mom and I were walking in a park close to the house, and I looked up and saw this massive black figure a bit ahead of us on the trail we were on. I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6, and I thought it was a bear, so I took off running. My mom said she didn't see anything after she caught up to me and calmed me down. Unquote. So definitely some creepy stuff happening in the Pickerington house.
I really hate that, the finger thing.
Yeah, then that's really, really, really creepy.
Oh, God, what would you do? What would you do?
Get out the saw.
Well,
No, I don't. I would do nothing. I would look terrified. And then,
I would, you know what I'd do? I would throw salt down
Salt?
the grate. Yeah. I don't feel like do anything.
a little garlic salt. Hey, if it's half witch, half vampire.
Yeah.
Little garlic salt. You know what I mean?
Well, okay. One, if it happened to me, that's what I would do. I would pour salt down. But what if it happened to like your family, like your kid? Like, what do you, and they tell you, like, what do you do?
Man, do I want to be a horror movie dad? It's just a dream, son.
There's an advantage to that. You know, there is an advantage to being a horror movie dad.
Well, the advantage, I guess, is that by pretending it's not there, you're not feeding into it.
Yeah.
Or trying to keep the peace of your family. You know, if you're like, hey, yeah, that's a ghost in your room. But you're probably okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to my room now. There's no ghosts in there. Just your mom.
I'm not going to check because it's there.
Yeah. You don't need me to go look.
Oh.
Good night.
I don't like that.
I'm sure your Target nightlight will protect you.
Yeah. All right. So that was the Ohio house?
They're all in Ohio.
Okay. That was
the Pickerington.
Pickerington?
Yeah. Now let's move on to the Lancaster house.
I know Lancaster.
So the next house is the Lancaster house. After Rob's mother and father split up, his dad lived in a house in Lancaster for a while. You familiar?
I feel like I know the name.
Chilled in there. It's probably not that. I mean, if it's Central Ohio, it's not that far from
Not that
us.
far. I know the name.
Yeah. It was built in the 1800s and was a historical Lancaster campgrounds. Historical for its history and architectural significance, and it was put on the National Registry of Historic Places by the National Park Services in 1987.
So he lived in the park?
I think like houses near it.
Okay.
Now, he didn't say that. He said it was historic. I looked that up, and that's a fact. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, the main thing that Rob remembers from this house was that very late at night or very early in the morning, almost like clockwork, a woman, a spirit, would walk down the stairs, make it to the landing in front of the bathroom, and then disappear.
Hard pass.
Yeah, as creepy as that sounds, Rob admits that the spirit itself never made him feel uneasy. I mean, other than the first time he saw it. I feel like the first time you see anything, it gets a little creepy.
I feel like that's almost like a repetition cycle.
Yes. It became really kind of like a routine for him. You know, it's like when he saw it, he was like, okay, here you are again. Like, this is just how things go.
What time was it? 3:37? Lady coming down the stairs.
3:37. Is she there yet? Oh, there she is, yeah. However, there was one night that she didn't show up. And it was actually the lack of the spirit, the lack of seeing this woman, this disruption of the routine that scared the hell out of Rob. Because in his mind, where did she go? What happened? What's different, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like the unknown became a known, like a comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And her disappearance made it even creepier.
That's weird. Like, why would that happen?
Yeah. And it's like not to compare the spirit to a spider, but I think about it as like an arachnophobe. It's like when you see a spider, you're like, oh no, you get scared, that moment of like pang of panic. But then you're like, okay, it's all the way over there. I'm here. I see it. I see you. I see what you're doing. You're over there, so we're okay. And then you look away and you look back and it's gone. And it's like that moment of like, okay, it's back to being the unknown.
Well, I don't know if not seeing the spirit is what's scary there. I think it's like what's causing the spirit not to appear.
Yeah, that's why I said not to compare it to a spider.
Okay.
I totally didn't make a comparison to a spider. No, I think it's like, well, one, it's like, where else could she be? But two, behind the scenes, what's going on that's making her not appear?
Is she scared of something else?
Right. Like, who knows? Who knows? So anyway, she didn't appear. Rob freaked out, and he's like, I'm going to spend the night at my friend's house. Literally just because of the lack of this routine spirit.
Ooh.
And when he got to the friend's house, he got a phone call that his house was on fire. Yeah. Thankfully, Rob's father and their dogs made it out unharmed. But the fire department was never able to identify what started the fire.
Oh, my God. That's so scary.
Isn't it? Isn't it the one night that she doesn't show up, the house burns down?
Oof. Random fires are a symptom of poltergeist behavior. That's scary.
Yeah. So moving on to his first apartment, here's a quote from Rob. Quote, "The first apartment after the Lancaster house was relatively tame, and I lived there with my mom. We had one spirit that lived there, and she was actually pretty unnoticeable at most times. We first noticed this when myself and a couple of friends were walking across the courtyard behind the apartment, from which you could see the window of my kitchen. I looked up, knowing that nobody was home, but I saw a very pale, dark-haired woman standing there looking out. Obviously, I freaked out, and my friends both saw her too. So we went inside and swept the whole house, finding nobody. We assumed that we were just seeing the coat rack at a really weird angle, and we laughed it off, and we developed this great inside joke about the coat rack ghost. But she kept making herself known in little ways. Every once in a while, you could see a figure peeking around a corner, or a dark hand reaching into a mostly closed door, like someone was trying to hit a light switch."
I don't like the peeking. I don't like the hands. It's terrible.
Yeah. One of the experiences I remember was a friend being over because we had plans to go somewhere. I let him in my room watching Netflix and went to take a shower and finish getting ready. And when I got out, maybe 10 minutes later, he was in the living room on the edge of the couch looking terrified. He said he could very clearly feel someone sit on the bed next to him and immediately left the room. The only other thing I could think of that happened there was one night I woke up to someone in my room whispering my name. I woke up with what I could only describe as maybe something similar to sleep paralysis, and had multiple shadow people standing over me. And my room, for some reason, had a dim red light illuminating it. Unquote.
Now, are they saying his name like Rob? Or is it like,
Robert. Robert did it. I don't know.
It's creepy.
Waking up to a bunch of shadow people around me, though, sounds terrible.
It sounds
And then your
paralysis.
room, and your room has like a red tint to it. I think that definitely would fall under sleep paralysis, but I think we've talked about sleep paralysis, but that doesn't mean that there can't be little things that influence sleep paralysis.
For sure.
So the next location is Rob's sister's house.
Okay.
Quote, my middle sister, N, for privacy's sake, has always had weird things going on at her house. We can't figure out why, as we looked into the background of the house and nobody's recorded to have died there, nor could we really find anything interesting about the land it was on. But this house was definitely active. Whatever's in this house definitely started getting much more active after my sister started bringing around her now ex-boyfriend, who this thing apparently did not like. My sister and I both saw eyes in the basement looking up at us as we walked through the hallway in front of the stairs leading down into it. I was thrown down the stairs at this house, partially due to my own snooping. I was sitting in the living room one day while my sister was in the backyard with the dogs, and I noticed something misty-like in the upstairs hallway. I went upstairs thinking maybe, it could have just been steam. Somebody forgot to turn off the hot water or something like that. I made sure that no water was running and went as far as making sure that no windows were open to let anything into the house before standing in front of this thing and kind of just staring it down, trying to figure out what it was and where it was coming from. I stuck my hand in it, almost immediately lost feeling in my fingers due to how cold this mist was before getting thrown down the stairs. Now, I'm about 6'3", 250 pounds at this time, and it felt like I was a rag doll being tossed effortlessly. I got up and went back up the stairs, cussing this thing out, partially out of anger, but also shock, and partially because Mama didn't raise no punk, only to get thrown down a second time, causing my sister to run in and make sure I was okay, while I tried explaining to her what happened. After our dad passed, I'd been talking to my sister about smudging the house and getting this thing out of there. Her and her mom, my father's ex-wife from the first story, began smelling Dad's aftershave almost immediately after this conversation, making her mom think that the spirit was Dad, which really would not explain the events before he passed or why his dog was terrified of whatever this presence was. Unquote.
That's a trick.
A big, misty entity, and you put your hands through it, and it's icy cold. Like,
I was thinking, though, that's one of the most aggressive kind of things we've heard from a
listener,
a spirit. Yeah. That I don't know if I can recall a story where a ghost throws someone downstairs like that.
There's not many stories that we've discussed where somebody's put their hand through it, though.
That's true. Maybe a push, but this is like a legitimate throw, I think, right?
Yeah, no, this is 100% physical, like intentional.
Yeah.
But do we think that would have happened if he didn't stick his hand through it, And also, he said he was snooping in a way. Yeah, so,
but also it's what is this thing? Because it sounds like it's implying there's more to the story.
Yeah, and it's interesting that once they were talking about his father who passed away, they smelled his aftershave, but
they were also talking about smudging to get rid of the thing.
Yeah, so maybe it was like manipulating to keep them to keep it there, Yeah. Oh, I don't want to get rid of my father.
So is that kind of manipulation? Is that demonic?
I don't know. It's creepy, though.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on to Rob's brother's house. So Rob's brother moved into a condo at one point and invited Rob over to feel the house out and see if anything strange was going on. Well, he said it was not only to do that, but it was probably like a fake invite. Like, hey, do you want to catch the game and get pizza and whatever? And then Rob shows up and is like, where's the pizza? And his brother has like full Ghostbusters gear on. Is like, listen, I might have lied about the pizza. I don't know. That's cool, though, as a family. Like, hey, can you come over and help me smudge this house? Like, it's just like, you can tell how ingrained the paranormal is into this family.
Yeah.
If that's
it's a nice openness.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, no embarrassment or shame in saying, like, this happened, right?
Yeah. You can also be not scared of being ostracized from your family.
Right. But after walking through on the first night, neither of the brothers felt anything strange. much to the satisfaction of his brother. Because remember,
Sure.
this is the brother that had his mother stay in his room because of these voices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all was good and well until one particular night. His brother was sitting on the couch watching TV with his friend when his television suddenly became totally staticky and the sound morphed from his TV show to the sound of static to a long, shrill scream. His brother's friend promptly left the condo and refused to ever step foot in it again.
I gotta go.
Yeah, I'm out. Forget the pizza. Nothing ever happened again in the condo, but his brother claimed from time to time he would see a shadow figure standing at the top of his stairs.
It's menacing.
The next house that his brother moved into, there was a crib in the basement, which he immediately threw out and burned because apparently he would occasionally hear a baby's cries echoing from the basement.
Oh, my Lord.
Do not like that. And
No.
who leaves a crib? And what is a crib doing in the basement?
Yeah.
And why is it still there when you move the house?
Well, you know, yes, that's the big question. But, okay, maybe they had a child and that child
grew up. I mean, a perfect world.
grew up.
Grew out of the crib and they just...
Well, they didn't need the crib anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's places you can bring that, though. I mean, everybody needs a crib.
It's true. It's
You
true.
have a youngin'. And we can talk about this more in the discussion, but I think this one really freaks me out because the only experience he had in the condo was his TV going from static to scream,
Yeah.
which kind of echoes back to his previous experience of trying to sleep and all these voices screaming at him. And it's like, did something follow him?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't like it. This is actually like the fingers through the grate and all that stuff is really creepy. But when I was first reading these stories, that parallel between his brother trying to sleep with all the screaming and this experience really got me.
Yeah, I can see why. It's like this entity kind of following the brother
Mm-hmm.
and making him aware of how not alone he is.
Right. Like it's not trying to be sneaky. So the final experience is from Rob's friend's house. Quote from Rob. Quote, "This story took place at the same time that I lived in the first apartment. One of my old friends from high school and I reconnected and started hanging out again. And through our talks, I confided in her that I was sensitive to spirits and was able to see them. She immediately took interest and asked me to check out a family member's house, as she had some strange things happening recently and wasn't sure what the cause could be."
Oh, like Amelia.
Amelia.
When her friend came over
Oh, yeah.
and left at her house.
And was like, oh, there's a ghost girl in your basement.
Yeah, she
You
looks
should make that your bedroom.
angry.
Yeah. You should sleep there.
Yeah.
And she's like, got you, fam. But anyway, Rob wanted to help out, being a good guy. Maybe he was working on that thing.
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know.
Went down a little bit.
And she immediately said yes. And so they headed to her aunt's house a couple of days later. He said, this is still a quote. "It's important to note that on a rare occasion that I do investigations like this, I only ask for the bare minimum when it comes to information and bring a pen and a notepad with me so I can write down what I see as it is. That way, nobody can say I'm changing the story based on what I'm told." So basically alleviating bias.
Good.
Right?
Good.
Yeah.
Always when you can do that.
Yeah. I walked around the house for a while, taking notes here and there. I saw a woman in the finished basement with short blonde hair in her mid-20s and maybe around 5'4", 5'6". I wrote this down and kept moving into the next room where I saw a large, shapeless black mass, which I felt had either done something violent or had violent intentions. Once again, I wrote this down, and finally, in the master bedroom, I found the spirit of a small child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, who was the reason the small figurines on the shelf in the room kept being moved around.
No, that's a demon. Sorry.
When I presented this information to the family member, her aunt, her eyes immediately got huge. She identified the woman in the basement as her stepsister, which made even more sense to her because they kept some of their old furniture in the basement. The black mass was more than likely her stepsister's boyfriend, who apparently murdered the stepsister and then committed suicide afterwards about a decade later.
That makes sense.
Well, a decade before. So the deaths took place a decade before he was walking
they
through the
both
house.
died.
They both died. He killed her and then he killed himself immediately. The child upstairs stumped everyone though, but explained a few things that had been happening up there. Apparently, all this activity started up out of nowhere was that my friend's family member had recently gotten a new boyfriend who was slightly abusive in verbal and emotional ways, which would have likely upset the sister's spirit based on what had happened to her. This all apparently gave my friend the creeps, and we stopped talking shortly after this. Oh no, unquote. So that is Rob's story. That is Sam's story. Let's move to the discussion. All right, before we get to the discussion, we like to stop the episode and thank our newest patrons who, as of the recording of this podcast, are Adriana, Sylvia, and Jacob. Literally, Jacob, it's like you stole home. You slid in right before we pitched the ball. I don't know.
Yeah,
finished that.
I don't know.
But anyway, you're here. We appreciate you. Charlie, why don't you let all the listeners know something about our Patreon that you deep down would like to highlight?
For sure. Well, this is the first Patreon announcement I've been on since I've been out of town.
Is it weird to be in here? This is kind of like new uncharted territory for you for like the last month.
It's been nice to get away.
It's nice to look at someone and talk to someone during the segment.
But now that I'm back and you want to hear more about this trip that Tyler and I both went on, Tyler didn't go to Scotland. But if you want to hear more about our trips and our personal lives, I think you should check out our Patreon, Beyond the Bizarre, where we talk a little bit more about what's going on with our lives, what's going on behind the curtains, what's influencing the show. If that sounds interesting to you, please join us on Patreon. Tyler, what do you have to pitch for the audience?
I second Beyond the Bizarre. I think, why wouldn't you want to hear us talk about ourselves? What I'd like to talk about is, it's kind of like our paranormal stories, but it's not encounters or people's firsthand experience. It's news sources, news articles that are floating out in the digital inner space about UFO encounters or like weird mermaid mummy things.
Yeah, I love the last one we put out. That was great.
Yeah, so that segment is called Bizarre News. If there's a news source about something strange, there's a good chance that we will find it and talk about it on our Patreon, and we're always willing to accept submissions about news articles that people find. But that's
something strange in your
neighborhood. Yeah. So that's just like a couple things. Like we do movies, Google Hangout. You can get t-shirts, our ringtones, phone wallpaper, director's cuts. There's tons and tons of bonus content over on our Patreon. But I want to get to the discussion. I want to talk about Sam and Robert's story. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go in order. Let's go with Sam's story first.
Yeah, okay. Because that one's, we decided to let it simmer, right?
Yep.
It simmered.
You can plate it now.
Yes.
It's off the back of burner.
Do you want to say something before I go?
No, I want you to talk.
Okay.
I need you to talk for a little bit.
Okay. So I was thinking, do you know the legend of King Arthur?
No.
One theory is that he was given his sword by the Lady of the Lake, which is an entity. It's kind of like a mythological thing. Like the Lady of the Lake is this spiritual thing that has the power to bestow magical gifts like Excalibur.
The sword.
I wonder if we got a Lady of the Lake.
She was trying to give Sophia something really dope.
And they ran away.
And Sophia just got scared and was like, no.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily that.
She's like, it's the new iPhone.
I think you could say it's an iPhone
15.
15.
Great camera.
It's waterproof.
It's pre-downloaded Believe in the Bizarre.
Oh boy, she's like, ooh.
Pass. Oh, good. It's got morbid.
I do think that does fall into the world of Celtic Fae and such. Although this takes place in Florida.
There's nothing mystical in Florida. No, I would agree, though. It definitely feels more mystical than a ghost isn't going to do that.
Right.
They're not going to make that happen.
But it could be also like one of those water folk kind of thing. Like
water folk.
Well, there's the La Llorona.
Oh, La Llorona.
I can't say it. And there's that. There's also
La Llorona.
Many water tales like kelpies, that kind of thing. Maybe
Selkies.
Maybe it's some kind of water elemental.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. What do you think scared the dog? Was that a ghost? Was that
the dog must have sensed the same thing that they witnessed.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, the fourth friend is such a mystery because we know firsthand what Sam witnessed, and we heard later what Sophia witnessed, and one of the friends heard the low rumbling.
Yeah.
But we never got confirmation if they saw the glowing water. And then the fourth friend, who knows what they were doing? But the dog must have just witnessed what they were. I think that's what it comes down to.
And was it scared or is it like in awe?
Probably scared.
Probably scared too because it's unknown.
Yeah.
Unfamiliar.
It got like misty and everything, but I would like there was such a poor description of what Sophia saw coming out of the water.
Yeah. She said an entity.
An
right?
entity, yeah, but like
I don't know. I like to think it's like the Lady of the Lake.
Yeah, maybe. The Lady of the Lake got reduced to a retention pond. You got to make do with what you can in Florida.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that means, maybe it means they're chosen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What it made me think of, which is nothing like, I don't think this is what it is. This is just what it made me think of. But as you know, one of my biggest inspirations are Rhett and Link.
Yeah.
And they wrote a fictional book in 2019, which is like teenage suspense horror.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
And it's called The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek. And I'm going to try to not spoil it, even though it's been 4 years. But there's like mystical water in it. That it's like a mystical spring that glows.
Okay.
And it's like there's a ritual you have to do to make the water glow. And like there's this guy that they see that goes in the water and he's under there for like 30 minutes. Like there's weird stuff happening in the water. But it like glows. So that's what it made me think of.
It is weird that the water glowed. Like, there is bioluminescent, like, life. But that's mostly in the ocean, I think.
Yeah, and it's like somebody just put, like, lights and fog in there just to make it cool. It's like there's also, like, it's behind all these people's houses. Nobody... Like, what if you just look out your window and you're like, whoa, that's weird.
What's going on there? I'm going to close these blinds.
Maybe I won't go swimming in there tomorrow. I don't know. It's definitely strange, but I kind of like, you kind of have to believe, like, it's one of those things where, okay, either they're completely lying or something happened.
There are 4 witnesses, 3 confirmed.
Yeah. And I'll count the dog.
Okay.
Say 4.
Okay.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
He's like, bark, bark. Yep. Something strange.
Yeah. It's a strange event.
Yeah. And it's weird. It's like, it's not like every time we go by or.
Could it be alien, you think?
So, no. It doesn't. Well, okay. Yeah, I could. It doesn't seem like it to me.
No. I thought it was going to be alien before you saw
just based on the story.
Yeah.
No.
It's okay.
Just water glowing voodoo.
It's strange.
So moving on to, well, I find it believable.
Oh.
How do you?
I find it believable as well.
Maybe not. I mean, but they didn't come out and proclaim anything either. Like, they didn't know what it was. So it's hard to be like,
believable.
I think they're wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, well.
I definitely they saw something.
Yeah. And the way they're treating it is exactly how I would. I can't say what happened, but something happened. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes the paranormal so fun. Going back to our very beginning of it, where it's like being a skeptic, you can be skeptical of what it was, but also understand that something you can't explain happened. So moving on to Rob's experiences, which is funny because like I said, what really struck me when I was writing these notes, when I was reading it, what freaked me out, what scared me to go to my bathroom was his brother's experiences. It was this room, this bedroom where he needed his mother there. Like the ultimate source of comfort, needed her because he was terrified because of all these voices screaming at him. And then cut to later on, he thinks it's in the past. He's in a new space. His mom's not there. He's chilling. It's not like he's alone at 3 a.m. He's in there on his couch watching TV with a friend. Mm-hmm. Like in the ultimate moment of, not ultimate, but you don't feel like anything bad's going to happen.
Yeah, no, you're in this like safe space.
Yeah, you're chilling. There probably was pizza.
Probably.
Hanging out, and then all of a sudden, it just like, it lets you know. It's like a callback, right? It's like that terrible feeling of like, you thought you were gone. Yeah. And I'm still here. Just the static to that low, or that, the shrill scream that just like grows and gets louder. It's just like, I'm not gone. Yeah. Like that
it's very scary.
That is what really stood out to me.
Because it's like almost like he's being hunted at that point.
Yeah. Stalked, hunted, just letting you know, and maybe it's something completely different because that was like the end of it. Other than I like how it's just like other than seeing shadow figures every now and then. It's like that's cool.
Yeah.
Every now and then, just a shadow figure, no big deal.
Yeah, but they don't do anything. They just kind of loom, and I think that's the point.
That would be my big deal in life. If I saw a shadow figure in my house more than once, that's the big deal.
Yeah,
like it's not like other than.
No, I'd be like, I got to go to the library, do a montage right now.
I need to research.
Yeah.
Yes. What stuck out to you the most in all of Rob? There was many of them, but
I think that last story where he goes to this house and nails the ghosts.
It's impressive.
That last one, I'm surprised he didn't realize was a demon because it was a child.
Well, he didn't say it was a little girl.
No, but typically most children are demons.
That should be on a t-shirt. Typically, most children are demons.
Yeah, especially. I guess he probably didn't sense anything from it besides mischief, but even still, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The grate was really scary.
That is frightening. That's terrible. Haha, let's play with the grate. Oh, we can't right now because there's fingers coming out of it. What?
Even the voices, like knowing that a room's empty and you're hearing stuff.
Oh.
It's such a great horror movie setup. It's that door, that area that when you're there, like the family's moving in, there's like a soft glow of light coming in through the window. They got boxes. They're putting, this is my room. And, they're walking around and then, they zooms in. Like the main character drops something, a ball, and the ball rolls. And they go to grab the ball and they look and they're like, oh, this is strange. I wonder if this is foreshadowing. I wonder if this weird thing is going to come back into play later.
Yeah.
And then it does because fingers come up through, the first time they see that grate. That's just like whether it's a room or it's like an elevator shaft or like there's always something where it's like you find it. That's weird. I wonder if that's going to come back into play.
Yeah. And it does.
Very scary.
Yeah. He's very sensitive.
Very, very sensitive. So, he's emo in the paranormal world.
Is that what you say? Is that the right thing to say? I don't know.
Well, probably
not. Do you
believe
in stories?
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Do I believe in, do I think all of them, are perfect? Maybe he didn't nail all the people in the last one. Or maybe the TV was just acting silly. I think there's holes that you could punch in some of them.
I think you're saying the thing about TV because you don't like it.
Oh, I don't. I believe it. I'm just saying, it just because it maybe isn't all 100% exactly at face value. And that's not me saying he's lying or he's manipulating the story.
Yeah.
I just mean, maybe there's an explanation hidden somewhere for some of this stuff. But one thing we didn't even talk about it yet was the ghost disappearing, the reoccurring ghost.
Yeah.
Leaves, and the same day that she disappears, the house burns down.
Catches on fire.
Now, that one probably was I think that is really scary. I think the reason when I was reading it, I didn't get scared is because all I could think about is when we were in the second floor of my house and you asked me if I lived in a ranch house when I asked you what a landing was in the ghost in the desert, not the ghost in the desert. Maybe was it the ghost in the desert?
Yeah.
Sarai.
Yeah.
Remember that was kind of the same. Remember she said every time she went down the stairs, there was that little,
or her sister.
Whoever, one of them, whenever they go down the stairs, there was a ghost there on the landing.
Yeah.
And you're like, every time? You sure about that?
Yeah. Because she had to go down in covers.
Yeah.
Which is terrible.
That's no way to live.
No,
I go believable. What do you say?
Believable.
Believables across the board for Sam and Rob. So that is our episode on the glowing pond and the shrieking room.
It's scary.
There was a lot of things to call out for Rob's story for the title, but the shrieking room, which is funny because like I said, that's not even Rob's story. That was his brother's, but it's what stuck with me.
No, it's a very prominent image.
Could have did the glowing pond and the reoccurring ghost that disappeared on the night that his house burned down. That wouldn't fit on the graphic.
No.
Next time.
But something, I don't know, it doesn't matter. What incredible stories. Thank you for giving them to us, Tyler. Thank you for sending them in, Rob and Sam.
Yeah.
Appreciate you both. Thank you for going to the website, probably.
They did.
Okay, and writing down, not being intimidated by that box. And if you're like, I'm going to be like them, and I'm going to submit, not being intimidated by the box. I'm going to write it down and throw it in there. I feel like I just repeated myself.
I want to be cool like Rob and Sam and send a long story. Yeah, no, listen, like this, even the spacing like between this house and like this was totally written elsewhere and then dropped in there. I can tell.
For sure.
You don't have to do that. If you want to hit a flow, you want to write it fresh, right in the box of the form. Feel free to do it. I just don't want you to feel intimidated.
You want freestyle?
Yeah, just don't feel intimidated by the size of the box. Don't let that get to you. You know what I want to say? This is nothing to do with anything. I finally, it was like, there was like 6 weeks in between this and what I'm about to say, is I finally got a second playing session of Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Wow.
With my sister. It's such a good game. Like the first time I played it, like I was still getting used to the controls because it's different and I wasn't very good. Like if you give me Resident Evil 4, the original, I can just like, I could be talking to you completely distracted and just crush. But this was like, it was a little harder. I had less ammo. But then the second time I played, like my sister is really big into like the like what treasures are there? What are the collectibles?
Yeah.
What can you find? She loves it. And it just introduced so much more than even the original game, like the merchant, all that stuff. And like, oh, find 3 of these. And it's just like,
how do you guys?
That was almost like I was tearing up.
How do you switch off?
What do you mean?
Like, how do you play together?
She watches.
Oh, okay.
She watches and she's really good at telling me when I forget a box.
Sounds good.
I'll be in the middle of fighting 3 enemies and she's like, there might be a box, but you go ahead. You do your thing. Yeah, but when you're done, I think there's a box that you. And normally she's right, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's just funny. She like trained me to be the person that I can't just go through a game. Like I have to completely search an area. For everything.
I'm not that observant. Like I'm very bad at finding.
I was trained. I wouldn't be otherwise. But
Alex is like that too.
Yeah, I could see that. In a good way.
Yeah.
But I totally recommend if you've ever played Resident Evil 4, pick it up. If you haven't played Resident Evil 4, which, it's kind of a bummer, Charlie. You just had to get a new job.
I got a new job.
And you have to work in summer.
Yeah, so I'm working right now, so I cannot stream. Maybe we'll figure something out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You would enjoy this game.
I probably really would.
Yeah.
If we do stream, I hope it's here.
Yeah, well, it absolutely should be. And also, I feel like they're just like taking all these 2004, 2005 games, which are my childhood. They just announced that they're remaking Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
You know why they're doing that? So you
buy it.
Buy it, you idiot.
I know. It's like I already played it, but I'm not a fan of Metal
Gear. I'm not sneaky.
Yeah. You had to sneak in Snake Eater, and they're like every single situation that you run into now is like figure out how to deal with it. Like it's gonna. But the problem is like I used to have so many hours a day.
Yeah, you don't have that anymore.
No, it's like as exciting as that sounds, it's also like damn, like give me a good 14
hours. 6 hours to try to figure out how to sneak past this boss.
Dude, have you heard anything about the fight with the end?
Oh, is that the one?
The sniper. It was like 4 different areas. Like he might not be in an area. You could spend 30 minutes looking for him. You have to go wait for like the sun to make his sniper rifle glimmer. You have to wait for him to shoot you, and you kind of get a feel for it. His bird is sometimes around. Sometimes he falls asleep and you have to look for his Z's above his head.
Oh, wow.
But what you can do is you can pause, save the game, not play it for a week, and he'll die of old age. And you'll log back in and it'll go to a cutscene and he'll be dead.
Wow.
Or some people would cheat and they'd go into their system and they'll push the time forward.
Yeah.
I wasn't that sneaky. But there's also a cutscene earlier in that game where you can kill him right after the cutscene and never have to face him in battle.
Oh.
Crazy. This is nothing to do with anything. But
that's interesting.
Somebody said that I was supposed to talk about Resident Evil 4 and I hadn't played it until like a few days ago again.
I thought not Resident Evil. What's it called? What game are we talking about?
Resident Evil. Oh, Metal Gear.
Metal Gear also has that one boss where you like have to like switch your controller port.
Oh, Psycho Mantis.
But you can't really do that now unless you switch controllers.
Yeah. Yeah, he could control the screen and read your memory card. He'd be like, "Oh, you're playing Ratchet and Clank and what is it called?
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank. You're only at 14%."
Ratchet and Clank.
I couldn't remember. I'm sorry.
Ratchet and Clank.
You were playing Ripto's Rage recently.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Spyro. Yeah, I don't know. But you know what I do know is if you like this podcast and you're enjoying it and you're all caught up and you want a little bit more, we already shouted it out. But we are on Patreon. There's tons of bonus content. And just to kind of tease it a little bit, our 3-year anniversary is coming up.
Wow.
We might be doing something live and special for it.
Probably.
Maybe it'll include some merch drop. Maybe it'll include a new Patreon tier.
Ooh, it sounds fun.
Maybe it will have some encounter stories.
Yeah.
Who knows what could happen when you hit 3 years.
I don't know. 3 years.
And not to there's a lot, not to toot our own horn. We've never missed a week. 3 years. I don't know what my family looks like. I don't know what sleep looks like.
Yeah.
But I do know what 3 years of never missing an episode looks like. And I'm very proud of us for that. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy this podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you enjoy next episode. I don't even know what it's going to be. It's Charlie.
I hope you enjoy
pressure.
that episode and this one. And if you are enjoying them, please feel free to leave a review on Apple by leaving a review and also giving us 5 stars. And also, if you're on Spotify, please give us 5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars, please.
Yes. But thank you, everyone, so much for listening. We appreciate you. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre.
A podcast as bizarre as you are.